How's it going, everyone? This is How to Happy and I am Dono. In this video, we're going to be talking about breaking down your goals a little bit so that you can get to some actionable steps. I want you to take a second to think of your biggest goal. What's that thing that's kind of been nagging at you that you haven't ever gotten around to doing? Think about that for a second. There could be a wide variety of things that are holding you back, but one of them could be that the goal is too big or too vague. If you have a goal like I want to change the world, you may not know where to start. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to break down your goals until they become manageable chunks that you can actually take action on. Most of us have dreams or goals that we want to accomplish that are really big, but not all of us know where we should be starting. The best way to get started on your goal is to start with the big piece and then break it down into smaller and smaller chunks until you know exactly what you need to do to start achieving that goal. It might be a little difficult if it's a goal that you don't have a ton of experience with. However, you have to get some actionable starting points or you're never going to be able to do anything with it. To break down your goal, start at the end point and what you want to accomplish, and then break it down piece by piece what you have to do to get to that end goal until at the very end you're going to have very actionable steps that actually fit into your calendar. Some people like to draw out a map. They start with that goal and then they start drawing arrows. Okay, to achieve this, I need to do A, B, and C. To do A, I need to do A1, A2, A3, and then keep drawing that map out. If that helps you, that's a great way to map it out. To illustrate how to do this, let's start with an example of I want to start a side business. Now, when I just say I want to start a side business, that's not really specific enough to know whether or not I've accomplished my goal. So we need to take it one step further and get more specific so I can either say yes or no. I'm going to change it to I want to start a side business that makes $500 in 1 month. Now we will know at the end of a period for sure, yes or no, whether or not we accomplished our goal. If you have one of these bigger goals, you need to decide what that specific thing is for you so that you'll know you've accomplished the goal. If it's too vague and you can't say, yes, I've done this, or no, I haven't, then it's not gonna be a very easy goal for you to accomplish. After we've got our specific goal, we need to look for ways to break it down so that we can get really actionable steps. For our example, we're gonna say that we're already certified as a personal trainer, but we never got around to getting any customers. So now we have start this side business. The next piece is we need to find customers. Finding customers is something more specific, but it's not enough that we can say, okay, today I'm just gonna go out and find customers, because that isn't really a specific enough task that you can just go out and do. Now that we have this chunk, we need to go again another round and make it more specific, break it down even further. If we break it up again, we have to start thinking of ways to find new customers. So maybe we're gonna go post flyers. Maybe we're gonna go post on different types of social media. Maybe we're gonna talk to friends and family and look for referrals. Now that they're broken out into those chunks, those are more specific actions that we'll know exactly what we need to do to accomplish them. So to make it even more specific, you want to add numbers. So you might say, I'm going to ask 15 friends or family members to see if they have any referrals. That way you will know yes or no for sure if it's done. If you think that you've broken your goal down into actionable enough pieces, ask yourself, what chunk of time can I block this into? And at the end of it, say yes or no, it's done. So going back to what we were just talking about, if the goal is talk to 15 friends or family members and ask for referrals, you could say, from 9 to 9:30, I'm gonna make sure I go ask 15 people. And at the end of that time period, you know whether or not it's done, and you also know exactly what you need to be doing during that time. If you can't say yes or no, you did something, or if you can't put it into a chunk of time, then your goal probably hasn't been broken into specific enough chunks. You should be able to know exactly what you need to do to work on your goal and how that filters back up to your huge overarching goal. I also understand if you don't have a ton of experience in whatever you're trying to do, that you may not be able to chunk out the whole thing and break it into specific steps because you don't have all the information. That's not a huge deal. You can still get around that. So let's say that you want to start a garden, but you don't know anything about gardening. Well, you would start still with that big goal. I want to start a garden. Your first actionable step would be learn how to actually garden. Then from there, you can break that off into, find a book about it or find some articles or talk to someone who knows how to do it. Those again are actionable steps. Then once you finish that other piece of learning what to do to garden, you can go back and start breaking down your overarching goal again and say, okay, now that I understand these different components, what do I have to do to start a garden? Then you start breaking it out again until you get more actionable steps. Mainly what I'm trying to get at is don't let your lack of knowledge overwhelm you or make you afraid to go figure it out, because we have access to so many resources now on the internet that you can learn practically anything you want. You just may have to do a couple of these planning sessions depending on how big your goal is. You should periodically revisit the steps that you're taking to make sure it filters up into your overall goal and what you're actually trying to accomplish. But for the most part, you'll want to focus on the next set of steps. That's because these are more actionable, and when you focus kind of on this broad nebulous goal, it's easy to just get caught up in, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. Instead, if you just focus on the steps and start knocking them out, a lot of times you'll be surprised how much you get done just by diligently working at it. Another point I want to cover is that you don't have to make it hyper specific. You don't have to say like, look at egg, pick up egg, crack egg, look for shells. You know what I mean? That's way too specific and it's not going to be helpful. You only need to break down the goal to the point where you know exactly what you should be doing to filter back up into that high level goal. Anything beyond that is just kind of a waste of time unless you feel that it's helpful to you. All right, let's go over one more example. Since I have a little bit of experience writing books, we will go with the goal of wanting to write a book and break it down quickly. So we'll start with the end goal, write a book. For me to write a book, the first thing I need to understand is roughly how long it's going to be. So the first step that I would block out is create an outline. Once I have the outline, I'll know how many chapters I need, and then I can re-chunk it out and say, okay, write chapter 1, write chapter 2, write chapter 3, so on and so forth. After that, then I know that, writing projects usually need revision, so I can chunk out tasks in exactly the same way. Revise chapter 1, revise chapter 2, etc., etc. A book also has a few other things you have to do for it to be finished, so I would, put format the text, create a title page, create a book cover. These are all things that I can slot into different times in the day, and I will know at the end whether or not I've completed the tasks. And then boom, I've got a really good action plan for achieving my goals. I hope that helps you break down some of your bigger goals into more actionable steps so that you can get things done a little bit faster. Now let's move on to the exercise. The exercise for today is write down one of your goals, then break it into chunks and list out all the steps you need to accomplish to make your goal happen. As you go through this process, it will help you formalize exactly what you need to do to complete what you're working towards. And that is all I've got for this video, so I will see you next time. You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.